Check, 1, 2. What's up, everybody? Howdy to all you fine folks out there in podcast land. Welcome back to this week's installment of the JR the Handler Show with me, JR the Handler. Again, thank y'all for tuning in this week. Boy, do I have a treat. This is one of the absolute first people I thought about when I decided to do this podcast, and he is gracious enough to give us some time today to jump on. We talked about him last week on our episode with Chase Butler, or I guess that was 2 weeks ago, and we probably talked about him last week. He'll probably come up a lot. He's a legend, and I'm not going to waste any time. I'll do all my my spiel and all my stuff at the end because I want to jump right into this. I guess you call it an interview, but I'm going to call it a conversation because he's a friend of mine. For several years now. He's a legend in the business. He's been doing it almost as long as I've been alive, it seems like, because these boys have been rocking and rolling for a long time. And that's no knock. Hell, he looks like he could be my slightly older brother, maybe. I'll say that at best. But today I've got an absolute legend on, one of my closest friends out there on the road. When I need something, I know I can call this guy and he's going to shoot me straight and give me the info and some advice that matters and that makes sense. And without any further ado, tour manager for Tracy Lawrence, my buddy, Tommy, a.k.a. Opie McDonald. I love that you got your hog gear on. You're an Arkansan. And we'll get into that because you're from where Tracy's from, where Justin's from, all you hogs. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Doing great, man. Shoot, sitting in a Airbnb in Lebanon, Tennessee. I'm away from home for a few days. This week the road wouldn't let me go back home to Arkansas, so I had to stay in Tennessee for a while.
I know how that goes. That happens if you're in this business. You need to tell that idea to Tracy. I'm sitting in an Airbnb in Lebanon, Tennessee. Sounds like an upbeat
Man.
rock and roller right there. Yeah, right.
Hey, shoot, somebody needs to write that.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I'm not a writer, so I can rewrite a song, but I can't write a song.
Hey, well, that's a good place to jump into this because for all clarity there, if anyone knows, I've had people ask, do you have a outline for your show? Do you have this and that? I say, absolutely not. It is totally by the seat of my pants. All I have written down is the name and the date and a few things for me to remember, but I don't even know who I'm going to have on the podcast half the time. So no, this is totally unscripted and nothing of this is planned. This is just a conversation between brothers of the road. And you say that about not writing a song. People always ask me that, do you write, do you sing, do you play? How'd you get, and I'm like, no. And you never played? I was like, no, I've always been a tour manager, a merch guy, tour manager, van driver, whatever I needed to be, auxiliary, assistants, but, not in any of that. And so you don't either. Do you play or you don't play, right?
Not at all. Not at all. I I play the radio.
Yeah.
Play a phone now. I mean, that's all I can play. It's this business was always something that it didn't happen to somebody. I didn't. I mean, the Merle Haggards and the George Joneses, they were up in the clouds. To me, I didn't. To me, they wasn't real people. They didn't exist. They're not real. I remember seeing people on MTV when they come and go, is that really what they look like? Because you always heard them on the radio. You didn't have videos, until videos come out.
Right.
But, to me, this didn't happen to somebody. So I had no aspirations of ever being in this business or even trying to even gear myself towards this business. My
Yep.
boss,
Same.
way different.
Yep.
He wanted to do it from the time he could walk. He knew exactly what was going on. I guess I was just real naive about it. So
Yeah.
but
I'm in the same boat. I never had any inkling. I thought, that was the farthest. I didn't know the job that you and I have made into careers even existed
right,
until I got to be in college and an adult. Well, even once I was on the road before I knew this was a thing. You know what I mean? And that's part of why I'm having this podcast, because a lot of people that come from rural America or anywhere in general don't know these jobs exist. They see the 5, 6, 7 guys and gals on stage, a couple people running around doing sound or roadies, but that's all they think. They don't realize
and
that there's there's all these people behind the scenes making stuff happen.
yeah, they don't know about. I was just talked about that. My daughter graduated high school, and all of her friends that were played in high school band, they don't realize that music is a huge business that they could do every little aspect of, from somebody's going to get paid. You might be the singer and you might have cut a song and that song makes a lot of money, but there's a lot of people gets paid before that check hits your bank account. So, and
Absolutely.
luckily we're one of those guys that get paid before it hits their bank account. So,
Absolutely. Well, and then all the people involved in the process. I mean, whether it's a live show
right.
like we participate in or studio stuff. I mean, you got engineers, you got producers, recorders, session players, the guy who's working, the maintenance guy at the actual studio that has to come fix the toilet when it breaks. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
people's paychecks are
The
involved with the process.
the songwriters, the publishers, the guy the pitch man that pitches it to the artist, they're going to get paid.
Yep.
That it's ridiculous.
It really is.
How many people it takes to get a song. What used to be the radio, but I guess now you can cut one here and on your laptop and release it to social media now. But still,
Right.
it
It's
used to
still
be a big thing. So.
Yeah, and it's still a lot of people. There's plenty of people who find a way to get get a point or two on the way to the
Absolutely.
bank.
What they call that, a word for a third. So
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Oh boy, I have been, going back that I'm not a songwriter, but I have been buzzed up before and damn sure tried to get my fourth or third on a song before and been called out for it too. Because let me
Exactly.
tell you something, songwriters don't like somebody who ain't a songwriter throwing out ideas
That's
when they're
right.
writing
They
songs.
don't.
And I've learned that, and then I still try to use it when I'm around certain situations. I've tried to use it a little, probably because I was drinking and was a little
Yeah.
bold, and but definitely got called out and shot down. They sober up real quick. They ain't giving out thirds and fourths on
They
much.
they pretty stingy when it comes to it.
No, I can remember Priscilla Block. Not too long ago, she was on Justin's bus, and another songwriter or two was there, and a producer or something. They were all in. I threw out a couple of things, and Priscilla goes, "Damn, Jr. working hard for that fourth over there, ain't he?" That was my cue. I was like, all right, I'll be outside. I'll see y'all holler if you need
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out.
Yeah, but that's funny you say that because I was in the same boat. I had no inkling this was even a possibility until I met Wayne Mills once I was a couple years into college. You had a different path. You said obviously you didn't think about it growing up, but at some point a buddy of yours from high school ends up being one of those people who, like you said, the
Yeah.
George Jones and the Merle Haggard, who you don't know are real people. That's me until the first time I meet Tracy Lawrence. I'm like, that's really
Right.
Tracy Lawrence. I mean, I attempted to line dance at Heartland Dance Center in Wetumpka, Alabama, to this guy in 1994, and now I'm drinking a beer with him. This is insane.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Exactly, man. I guess I got lucky, man. Of course, we was always good friends, throughout
Yeah. So
all our
tell
life.
tell
But
that. So you guys are from the same hometown, went to the same high
yeah,
school,
yeah, grew up from elementary, first grade, all the way through high school,
same
and then
grade.
of course, same grade, same grade.
Wow.
He's actually older than me. I look older than him, but he's actually older than me. You know how them stars get that, preferential look
Oh
treatment,
yeah, absolutely,
That may be
absolutely.
another reason didn't want to be in the business. I was too ugly to be in the business.
Oh yeah, and you
But
guys, and Tracy. I mean, that's one thing I'll say. I mean, he plays hard, but he still works hard too. I mean, he still goes to the gym
oh
every day.
goodness,
He's gonna make sure to have him some
absolutely.
water, big thermos of water all day. I mean, and then he's gonna
Yes,
get, and you
he's
don't see him not ready to rock.
oh, and he when he hits that stage, it's amazing to watch him, from the guy I watched grow up to how serious he takes his craft and how good he is at it. He's
Right.
yeah, back in 92, May of 92, I guess 33 years ago, he I went out on the road with him and just as a guest, and the first place we played, I think, was Anniston, Alabama. I believe it was a place called the Fuzzy Duck. I
Wow.
think that was it. But anyway, he was playing these little old clubs and everything, and he is having another guy come out to be his merch guy, and but he couldn't start at a certain time, so he asked me if I'd come in and just fill in. He said, "Come out." I was went back to college from goofing off and all that stuff. So I went back and I was trying to finish my degree. He said, "Well, come on out, just call it a summer job. Just come out and have a good time, and hey, go back to college, and we'll always have this to remember." Well, I'm still on my summer job.
Hey, I
So,
was going to say too, buddy, in 1992 doing the club circuit with Tracy Lawrence, there wasn't no fun on that road trip there, was
oh
it?
no, not at all, not at all. And
As
it was
Tracy calls it, back in the Wild Wild West.
yeah, absolutely. Dude, we had a great time, man. It was awesome.
So let me go back on that. So you went to elementary school. You grow up.
Uh-huh.
You're going through high school. All that. Was Tracy playing and stuff during this time? Have some success around home. Now, where y'all from? Tell everybody where y'all
Yeah,
from.
Southwest Arkansas. It's right outside Texarkana. Uh,
Okay,
we're both from the Texarkana area. He was born in Atlanta, Texas. Of course, Texarkana, Arkansas, Texas. Close to Louisiana, Oklahoma. Where we grew up was 5 miles from Oklahoma and about 10 miles from Texas. By the highways.
gotcha.
Um, we uh, he played around, played the guitar. He did a bunch of jamborees and stuff, but I never was. He never really advertised it. He would just go off and just do it. I don't know if he just. I don't know. Some people knew he was doing it. A lot of us had other things going on. Heck, I
Right.
was. I wasn't one of those guys that went to a lot of music places. And sing concerts and everything. I think my first concert was after I got out of high school, and I went to see Hank Jr. at Shreveport, Louisiana. I just never was a concert guy.
Same.
Uh,
There wasn't nowhere
Mom and
close.
dad never.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody came. You went to Shreveport. It was actually a 2.5 hour drive back then because the interstate wasn't finished, and I don't know, just never did.
Yeah. Same.
It
Maybe
never,
a
never,
fair or
never.
something, but that's
Yeah,
about it.
if I saw somebody, I just saw them. It
Yeah.
wasn't that big a deal to me. But yeah, man, he was always around and always bring a guitar out. We was like, man, shut up, we'll play the radio. We want to hear somebody else. We didn't want to hear him.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. We want to
of
hear
course
Hank Jr.,
now,
not you.
yeah, now everybody wants him to get a guitar and play, and he's like, I don't want to do that. I do that all the time. I don't want to do that now.
Yeah.
So
I want to hear Hank Jr. and Merle Haggard. Yeah.
yeah, he wants to play the radio now. So
Right. That's so funny.
yeah,
So through high school, he's playing around. You don't really know it because, I mean, obviously it's life. Everything else is going on, cars,
yeah,
girls, school, all that stuff.
right.
Then when y'all graduate high school, does Tracy tell you, hey, I'm going to Nashville? What was right around that time?
Not at that point. I mean, we graduated high school in 1986.
Okay.
So he went to college at Southern Arkansas University. I went to another one, Henderson State. I actually transferred down to Southern Arkansas when he was there, but we never hung out. I was running around with a bunch of rodeo guys because they were just crazy and drinking, and I was having a good time. And
Yeah.
he and he was starting to play around in North Louisiana and all that stuff. And I think he had a band back then and was playing a lot. But next time I saw him, we went our separate ways. Was in 1990 or 91. 90, I think, is when he went, and he had his old car loaded with his stuff. He said, "Man, I sold everything I got a pocket full of money, and this old car," and said, "I'm fixing to go to Nashville." And next thing I know, I'm up on a bowler on a construction job in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and a friend of mine walks up, says, "Man, you ain't gonna believe this, but Tracy Lawrence just signed a record deal." And I'm like,
Wow.
"Man, you got to be kidding me!" And I said, "This is pretty cool." So then, we kind of connected around and finally got connected together, and then
Yeah.
that's when he asked me to go to work for him, which has been a life changing thing. It's been pretty cool. So
Right. So 90 he leaves. By 92 you hear, or 91 or so,
yeah,
you get told on a job on a construction site.
yeah, actually in 1990, because in
It was 90.
91 he's already got a number one song at December. So when I go to work for him, Sticks and Stones has already went number one. He's working on his next number one, and May of '92 I start,
Wow.
and I
So, but in between, a lot of people know this story, and you can tell you what you know about it if you want to. If not, but during that time too, I don't know where in the time y'all reconnected. So if you reconnected in 90, between then and the number one, Tracy gets shot in an attempted
Yeah.
carjacking, armed robbery outside of a hotel in
Yes.
Nashville, trying to escort a female friend of maybe y'all's from high
Yeah.
school
Friend
that
of
was in
ours.
town.
Yeah.
Tell that if you
Uh,
what you remember about that, or how you found out about that, and how that all went down.
well, I was the girl that was with him. You know, we were all. I mean, we graduated from a small place. I mean, just like my daughter, she graduated with 26 people this last weekend. Uh, I think we might have had 42 in her class, 45, something like that. I don't know. It's a pretty good sized class for that school.
Right.
But so we were all close. You know, girls, boys, all of us. We were just really good. We were like more like brothers and sisters than we were,
Chasing each
we were
other
very,
around.
very
Yeah.
close friends. Yeah, exactly. So me and her, we were very, very close. And when this happened, of course, I heard about it immediately that she was involved in a carjacking and that he had gotten shot. You know, of course, we were all concerned. But in the meantime, he would come home a little, back to Arkansas and had crutches, limping around a little bit. But he I don't know. We just connected back, like I say, he come by the house one day and said, "Man, we'll go back to Nashville. Just come back and ride with me." And I said, "Man, I don't know. How am I going to get home?" He goes, "Oh, we'll figure that out later. Just come on, go with me." So, that's when I took my first bus ride. A
You took the
total
bus
freaking.
from Arkansas, from your hometown, Arkansas. The first time you went to Nashville was
I,
on a bus.
no, I think I rode with him. We rode
Okay.
rode in a vehicle, yeah.
Well,
But
y'all weren't, but you weren't in that little red car still, huh?
no, 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 no. He was in that.
He'd upgraded by then.
I think by the time I come to Nashville with him, rode with him, he this uh, dealership, Chevy dealership out in Wichita Falls, Texas, had given him a truck to drive.
Oh yeah.
So he was already uptown a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
by
they
then.
buddy, you
So
rolling now. Get a new truck, buddy. Because and for
heck
people that
yeah.
another thing people don't know, that car Opie's talking about that Tracy took all of his worldly possessions to Nashville with on the first trip is still in his pasture now. Correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's red now because of rust, but it used to be blue.
Okay. All right. Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
That's funny. I saw the picture one time and I thought it was red, so it was originally a
Yeah,
blue car.
it's all rusty now and everything. But yeah, so up until a few years ago, that thing still had every window in it and everything. And they somebody come through and shot all the windows out and all that stuff.
Dang.
So
Well, they'll get it
it's
fixed up before they put it in the Hall of Fame one day.
shoot, I wish they just leave it the way it is. It's got character now from where it's
Yeah,
sitting
well,
there.
that's a good point
So
too. That's a good point.
but
So Tracy asked you in the summer of '92 for to take the summer off of college and go on the road with him. Obviously, we know that's the longest summer job you've ever had because it's still going.
absolutely.
So at the end of that, how does that go down? The end of the summer, you're supposed to go back to school. What's the talk there? Tracy says, "Man, just come on full time, do merch," or are you like, "Man, I want to
Yeah.
do this"? How's that go?
Oh, actually, I lived with him over the summer in an apartment in Nashville or in Donaldson, actually. And we come to the end of it, we were like talking, and I said, "Yeah," I said, "I got enrolled in school and all that stuff." He said, "Why don't you just stay and work for me?" He said, this is, we want you to stay if you want to stay. And said, "Yeah, man, why not? Hey, this is way more fun than most people get to have, than
Right,
most people should get to have.
right.
And I'm getting paid to do it. So I'm like, yeah, I'll stay." So
Yeah.
here I am.
So then you make the choice. So do you keep your place? Well, obviously you kept your place in Arkansas. Did you ever live? Oh, you were living with Tracy at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have anything. Heck, I'd moved up here and then I got me an apartment here and then I stayed in Nashville for 20 something years and finally married a girl that I had dated, on and off through high school and on and off through, the years. And uh, we finally decided to get married and stayed here in Nashville for 10 more of those years. And then we just decided we wanted a slower life and go back to Arkansas, go back to the hometown, 1,000 people, just
Yep.
raise our daughter there, be close to she had a son from a previous marriage, and we wanted to be around the grandkids
Yeah.
and just got to a point in life where we decided to retire. We'll already be retired. there. We don't have
Right.
to scramble to get it done. So
Well, that worked out good. So
it
then,
has.
yeah, man, and that's the same thing Justin did. You Arkansans, I say, y'all's proud folks. Y'all love Arkansas, buddy, and
We
I do
do love
too.
Arkansas.
Hey, how could you not? That's what I always tell people. I feel like it's one of my adopted homes because man, everybody up there has just always been so nice to me, and the people are so good, and just I love everything about Arkansas. It's a beautiful state,
Well,
all that.
it's you can say it about Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia. It's all the same down south, man.
That's true.
If we're you're from Alabama and we're the same people. We've chewed the same roads, just in a different location.
That's
It's
true.
we still have a good time. You had a good time growing up. Gravel roads, drinking beer, shooting guns.
Yep,
Hey,
same.
that's what we do.
That's it. That's it. Oh man, good memories
Yeah,
too, buddy. So
heck
then you
yeah.
decide. So then you decide. All right. Well, I'm going on the road with TL. So this is '92. He's already had a #1 song. Y'all playing the big clubs, selling them out. I'm sure, rocking and rolling. How does that turn in? So you're doing merch at this time, and we know
Yeah.
that wasn't going to be forever. So tell us the transition from merch to where you're at now.
Well, you say it wasn't forever. It seemed like it was forever. It was 27 years doing merch for Tracy, man. So I consider myself new at this tour managing stuff.
Right. But you did
It's
business management stuff too for him.
Yeah, I did do that. I took care of a bunch of or all his business, there for a while, paying bills and stuff. Uh it was good. It was good experience doing that. I was taking care of everything on the road anyway, as far as, settling the shows and everything. While
Right.
I was a merch guy, a lot of people used to come in and go, man, we've never settled with a merch guy. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's just numbers, dude. Just
Yeah.
give me the stuff, we'd go through all of it and, settle the show at the end of the night, collect a check and go on. So,
Yeah, and in ours,
uh,
I've said that before. It doesn't. There's no set structure in our business. The merch guy settling the show. I mean, there's not. It's not like a normal business where everything's this person does that. It can be
right.
arranged and configured however the team or the artist wants it to be. So
Yeah.
it is
Uh,
different, but that's not unheard of, and it's totally doable in our business. You can
yeah,
have the bass
absolutely.
player be the merch settler and the show settler if that's what somebody wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you talk about settling shows. I've been in the business long enough that I caught right there on the tail end where everybody used to talk about how you used to have to carry a gun in to settle because his club owner didn't want to pay you at the end of the night. I never run into that. I never was part of that.
Well, you
So,
got lucky. With
but
I did have to
yeah,
deal with a few of those. Tell the boys grab everything that ain't nailed down. He don't want to pay me, and we
yeah,
just take all the liquor cases in whatever room they had us stored in, and the rug on the way out, put it in the trailer. Whatever we could get. And even up. I remember with John Party, we used to play a place, and I've talked to some other TMs. There's a club on the East Coast that the club owner used to have a big shotgun or two behind his desk. He was a big dude too, and he'd always try to big boy you on the numbers. And I had to do a shot and go in there knowing this might go down, but
yeah.
I'm getting what I got to get. But
Man,
I didn't have to deal with that as much as a lot of people because
yeah.
before our era, I mean, it was really the wild, wild west. I mean, there was
Yes, it
no,
was.
I mean, everybody was trying to screw everybody on, in any way they could, on the numbers and the money and the agreements and deals. And there was no, checking this email or looking at this portal with what you're supposed to get. I mean, it was different.
Yeah, and everything was sent. I mean, even before us, or before me, it was before fax machines. So, you were just going off of what they had. You had maybe a phone call away, and you had to go find a payphone to go call the booking agent and say, "Remind me again what we're getting paid. Remind me what we're supposed to be doing." And if you didn't have that contract with you, you were totally screwed. Back
Yeah,
then. So
absolutely.
now, if you're an email away, somebody can send you a scan real quick of your contract or what you're supposed to have or ticket sales or on a you know generated digital whatever where you can download
Right.
it and you Ticketmaster or whatever
And you
they
got
give
it on
you
your
a printout
phone.
right then. Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot harder to screw somebody now, even in merch, because I remember in merch when I was doing it. uh we went out and toured with George Jones in 92 and 93. 93, I think is when it was, 93, 94. And those guys become my mentor on merch. And the whole thing was, don't ever give them your numbers. Don't ever tell them what you did, because that was the whole thing. We wanted to screw the building out of the most percentage we could screw them out of.
Right.
And then later on, I learned it really wasn't a good idea with these promoters, because they look at what Tracy was selling. They looked at, if the merch number's big, it means they were buying his merch, that people really liked what they saw. So
Right.
that kind of was, to bring them back in. But the people that taught me how to do it, man, their whole thing was keep all the money you can, because they're screwing us somewhere else. So we're going to screw them right here. So
Yeah. And that's that old school Wild Wild West
yeah,
before your era
very
you're
much
talking about.
so.
Because there's stories
Yeah.
of Jones. I've heard stories before of Jones back when he was in his No Show Jones days, that there would be promoters that would promote they were going to have a George Jones show, knowing they've never talked with George Jones about playing this show, just to fill up their building, keep people there buying beer and popcorn for 3 hours, 4 hours, and then tell them George is no showing, which George has never tried to do this deal, and so some promoter just filled his building up and sold beer for 3, 4, 5 hours. Think everybody there thinking they're waiting on George
On
Jones,
George Jones.
knowing he wasn't
And
going to
it,
be there. And like you've
it,
seen in some of the movies, like the Cadillac Records, they show it on there. There'd be two Little Richards. There'd be or Muddy Waters, whoever it
yeah,
was, but you didn't know, because like you said, there was no
yeah,
video, there was no pictures, no internet. You just
right.
see it's playing. Muddy Waters is playing here. Well, that's not the real one. Or Little Walter, I think, is the one they portray in the movie where he gets
Yeah,
shot. He goes up there and shoots the guy. But that happened all the time with things and promoters. So, that's
yeah.
why historically, there's always the James Browns of the world. They wouldn't go on stage till they got paid. Like, they're not going on stage till they got paid.
I heard a story, and I don't know if this is true or not. They were talking about George Jones one time said, "I'm not getting paid or I'm not going on stage till I get paid." So the promoter was there, and this can't be true, because the artist never collected a check, but said the guy had the money. George Jones got it, walked up, went on stage, and walked off the other side, got in his bus and left.
I've heard that one too, I mean, it's been going around for a long time, so that
It
there's
could
some
be true.
variation. Yeah, there's some variation of that story that's true for sure. But yeah, it was just a whole nother world, and luckily it's a little more streamlined. But you still got to watch your numbers and your
Yes, you do.
contracts and things like
Yes, you
that.
do.
But luckily, like me, getting to run with guys like you got to run with Jones and his camp, so at least you were
Yeah.
knowledgeable on how all that could go down.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We go back to growing up and doing this show, and or doing this business, and I'm getting to the point where a lot of my friends back home are getting ready to retire, and from working a real job all their life. And
Right.
I'll be like, man, it'd be nice to be able to retire. I'll probably retire when Tracy, gets done, and
Yeah.
then hopefully that's like at 80 years old or something. So I want to be
Right.
like the Charlie Daniels people, be out there, in a scooter like Max used to be with George Strait. He's riding that scooter around doing merch. That's the guy I want to be. But
Right.
uh, but I look at this, and go, man, those guys working at that cement plant and that paper mill, they didn't see what I saw. They haven't done what I've done, and they didn't have near as much fun as I've had.
That's
So,
right. Yeah,
so
it's a,
it's
there's a
we're
lot of
we're
it.
we're pretty lucky chosen few to get to do this. So,
Absolutely. It's like they say. I think it's a Jason Boland song. Life's a lot of trade offs in the end. Depends
yeah,
on what you want to get out of it. Because I think about that when I think about people in the military. 20 years, and you could go in.
same way.
I'm like, man, that's not a bad option if you're a young person and don't really know what you want to do. Go for 20 years. If you knew at 38 you could retire and get a check and insurance for the rest of your life, woo, that's a
Yeah,
hard deal to
exactly.
pass.
It is a hard deal to pass up.
But like you
Shoot.
said, we got all the stories, and that's part of the reason I wanted to have podcasts with all of my friends on here and road warriors like you to tell some of these stories, because that's what we do. That's the trade off we get. We get to have a lot of
That's it.
memories and cool interactions and things. Probably like that. Same thing with me when I finally met Tracy. So you're thinking about George Jones you'll never meet a person that doesn't even exist, not a
Right.
real person. Then fast forward 10, 15 years later, you're on tour with him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Now, how,
just,
I mean, and how was Jones during that point? He was rocking, huh?
oh yeah, he was on his actual. He was actually bigger when they stopped playing him on the radio than he was when he was being played on the radio. Because I guess he'd gotten sober. I don't know how long he'd been sober, but wasn't drinking out on the road,
Right.
uh, when we were out there. And we were playing arenas and he was filling arenas up, we were there's just this opening act was loving to be there. He
Yeah.
was doing a lot of merch and making a lot of money. And like Tracy said, Jones was a special guy because he embraced the younger generation coming up and wanted to tour with us and wanted us to be successful, wanted people like Tracy and uh Confederate Railroad and people like he wanted them to, to have a long lasting career like he had. And
Right.
and some of them, like Tracy has mentioned, wasn't as warm to them as what Jones was. Jones just, you know, he loved music, loved the business, and wanted to be in it, kind of like what we are.
Yeah.
So Tracy's tried to emulate him, that part of his career wise, like Jones did. Be gracious, that
Well,
you were there.
you got to have young stars to keep the business going.
Yes,
When you can't
yes,
fill up arenas, it'd be nice to return the favor, and you get to like y'all have done lately, getting to go out and play big shows with Riley Green and us a couple years
yeah,
ago and all that stuff. And
exactly. Yeah.
just give you something else to do and bounce back and forth in different spots. But Tracy, as we've talked, we know that he said it. I mean, he's a lifer. I mean,
Yes,
he wants to be like Jones. He wants to die on the road and with a guitar in his hand. I mean, he's a lifer,
that's
and
it.
that's because of the mentors he came through. And he loves the business. He just loves country music and the business.
He loves every aspect of the business. The singing, the songwriting, the producing, the recording, the you know right down to the where the money's going, where it's being spent, who you're paying. He's a student of this business. And now he can be a mentor of this business, of course, because he's done it so long. But he is like I said earlier, I had no idea what this business was. He did. It's like it was just born in him. He knew what he was going to do,
Yeah.
and
So,
it's really
and he
cool.
and it worked out because
Yeah.
he didn't have a plan B. You know.
Uh-uh. No. And he brought me along, so that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And a lot of folks, I mean, he's always got
Yeah.
buddies. And I've got friends, I talked to Todd the other day, I mean, we've got friends that we met through you guys
Yeah.
that we'll know forever,
Yeah.
and stay
Yeah.
in touch with. So you're out there with George Jones. That's awesome. You're getting your first taste of the big leagues. Y'all are big on playing big arenas. Then you go to, what's the next couple tours after that? What's the mid 90s like? When do y'all go from opening to headlining and playing the big ones yourself?
Pretty much after that, that was really the biggest tour that I'm trying to think. We, went out with George Strait for a few times. We didn't really do a whole tour with him. I
Right.
thought not until the late 90s. But man, Tracy went to headlining, filling up arenas himself. And
Right after that, because he had a
it
couple. By
really
that
took off
point,
from
he's had
there. We
several
were having
several big hits.
we were having success like it was supposed to be,
Yeah,
one step at a time.
right.
90s country was the biggest uh era of country music there ever was at the time.
Yeah,
So,
it was huge. I mean,
and
the line
yeah,
dancing. I mean, it was just the pure country. The movie didn't hurt. All of
no,
that
it
stuff.
helped a lot.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
when Urban Cowboy came out in the early '80s,
Yes.
late '70s. That changed the game. Everybody kind of like now with Yellowstone. Everybody thinks they're a cowboy now.
Yep, exactly. And that's funny you said it because the guys back that lived in the 70s, he had musicians out there that played with uh hell every 70s actor was, and that's what they used to talk about when Urban Cowboy come out. It changed the life of Nashville, changed the business. And so the 90s did the same thing. And
Absolutely,
and like it is now. I mean, the exact tops are coming in, playing that good old country music. That
absolutely.
guy's good.
Oh yeah, he's good. He's real
So,
good. Yeah, I luckily
yeah.
got to meet him at the show we all did together. I don't know if you were there or not last year. We did a thing for Dean Dillon, I think it was. Um,
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Yeah, I saw Tracy for a minute
Yeah,
in catering, but yeah, I got to meet him there. Yeah, nice guy, and I can remember
good.
going and looking. We were all sharing dressing rooms, and I can remember going there, and he's got a guitar and I don't know if it was his manager and a producer, and he's during the show, he's back there working on some music and showing somebody
Yeah,
something and doing something. So I got a
that's
lot of
awesome.
high hopes for that guy, but I agree. But that's
Yeah,
kind of how it goes. It goes in ebbs and flows, and
it does.
we love pro wrestling's the same way. You have the eras, seem like
Yeah.
it's going down, and boy, it ain't looking good, and then boom, something will happen, and it's rocking and rolling again, and that kind of deal. Well, the same with country. So yeah, in the mid '90s is the biggest time in country music. A huge moment in country music at that point. Tracy's right on top of it. The money's coming in, big shows, music videos are happening by now. CMT's starting to happen by now. GAC. I mean, there's all that stuff just starting to brew up because it's so big. You still had TNN, the Nashville Network, Crick and Chase, Ralph Emery, all that kind of stuff still rocking. The dance craze, the line dance craze that swept the country during that era. And NASCAR. I mean, all the country stuff just rocking during that time. So now Tracy's one of the biggest players in the biggest genre during the biggest time of that genre. Who are some of the acts you guys are taking out with you, and how was that? And music video. I mean, how hectic was that time?
Like I say, I was on the merch side of most of it. I wasn't backstage. I didn't get to interact with a whole lot of people, but man, the funnest people in the '90s that we ever toured was people like Mark Chestnut, Tracy Bird, that guy, incredible person,
Yes,
incredible artist, incredible crew. He was one of the funnest guys we ever hung out with.
Bird.
He was Bird. Yeah, he was something else.
And I've only got
He's
to meet him a few times. We've never done a show with Bird, I don't think. I've never, I don't
really,
think. No, but we got to meet a few times at some of these events. And
yeah.
Tracy introduced us, your Tracy. And me and Justin both we got back to the bus, we're like, damn, he is smooth, ain't he? And we were like, Bird, we never met Bird. We're like, Bird is smooth like Tracy, like TL. We're like, man, he is cool. He dressed to the nines. Boy, he was sharp, wasn't he? And doing his interview things backstage, we were just at awe.
Yeah.
We were like, because we've seen your Tracy, and we are always at awe of him. And then we're like, damn, there's two of them. They're both awesome in their own way, But hopefully we will do some shows with him at some point. 'Cause I know he's out playing again.
He's still as good as he was back then, man. He is phenomenal.
Yeah, because that the watermelon crawl, all that stuff was huge
Yeah.
during that era. It was right there with alibis and sticks and stones. I mean, that was just good stuff.
And we talked about those guys back in the '90s, the way radio worked, you could have your song climb, get number one, it goes out, and in another, they're releasing another song right then. So they released 4, 5, 6 songs on you in a year. You had a chance to build a body of work where you had a lot of popular songs. And so, all those songs that you listen to, Tracy Lawrence and Tracy Bird and even Chestnut, all them, I mean, they built a body of work that's just, all the songs are familiar to you. You don't go to a show of theirs and think they're just playing a bunch of covers trying to fill in, time to make up their time slot. It's all hit after hit after hit after hit,
Early in their careers.
Yes. We did a show this last weekend, Sammy Kershaw was on it, and hit after hit after hit. He played 40 minutes, and it was like, wow, all these songs are just great. Then Chestnut comes on, plays an hour, and he's great. And then it rains, and they rain us out, and then we don't get to do the show.
Oh man, we got rained out too. Then we got rained out this past Saturday too, in Mississippi playing a private show. It just never would quit. I mean, it was a mud bog. And it's funny you mentioned that because I was texting my assistant tour manager, who is also assistant tour manager Hank Williams Jr., and he screenshotted me the master tour schedule of the day for y'all show down in Ocala, Florida. Or I asked him, I said, where you playing? He said, Ocala, Florida. So he sent me a thing, and I'm looking, I'm like, it's Sammy Kershaw, Mark Chestnut, Tracy Lawrence, then a DJ set by Afro Man, then Hank Williams Jr. And I'm like, oh my God, what a show to be at that day, buddy. Are you kidding me? Man. I mean, because we have done a few with Mark Chestnut, and the thing we took away from that was it sounds just like the record. His band and him, they sound just like the dang record. I mean, it's perfect.
Yes.
A lot of the legacy acts do, but we hadn't done many with Nut, and we were just like, Man. And there was a weird interaction with Justin and Nutt early in his career because Justin was a big fan, and I guess Nutt was tired on the bus. It was kind of a quick thing there one time, and he was kind of disappointed. But then we got to meet him another time, and we were cool and then watch the show.
Yeah.
But that anybody's having a bad day or just a rough moment. So I saw that when Nathan sent me the lineup from y'all show in Ocala. I was like, man, what a stellar lineup. Because, yeah, you're talking about Tracy's got 20-something number ones. Nutt's got a dozen number ones. Kershaw, unfortunately, only has one number one, which is crazy. And he'll tell you this. I think he's got 20 number twos.
Yeah.
And the only
he tells
time
that story.
he does, he tells the story. The only time he got a number one is because he had a friend a friend of his that was a lady that was a DJ in Dallas or Houston or somewhere, and the song was sitting at number two and wasn't going to make it. And he called him and said, "Can you do me a favor?" And she went and locked herself in that control room and played that song over and over and over on repeat till it got enough spins to push his song to be number one that following week. So that was his only number one. I think it was She Don't Know She's Beautiful.
What a great song.
Great song. But you think about Kershaw, I mean, double wide. I mean, he's got all these songs and they were all number twos. And it's like, whoa. And I think it was who does he say was he has somebody that he said it was maybe it was it Chesney or somebody? He said every time he thought that's who got that number one right in front of him was always
it was Tracy Lawrence.
Was it
That's
TL?
what he says. Oh, yeah. He'll
Okay.
say that third Tracy Lawrence would jump it every time,
That was it then. Yeah, because Tracy's got what, 21, 22 number ones?
Something like it. Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. And probably should have, and as well as I do how this business works, it's a travesty really, but he's probably got another dozen that should have been.
Oh, absolutely. And just the songs that aren't released,
right?
That's correct. And a lot of these artists were that way, So
yeah. Well, and then once you hit a point in your career, unless you're just really lucky, they're not going to put it on there. Because I was just listening to before we got on Out There in It, Gulf of Mexico, some songs off the last thing Tracy put out. Those songs should be number ones. George Strait puts music out. That should be. I mean, but they're not going to do it. They're just not. It ain't going to happen these days. I mean, you get the rare one like Tracy did with "Find Out Who Your Friends Are," becoming the first number one song ever released by an independent team there without a record label behind them, and that was 6, 7, 8 years after his last number one. And that just don't happen. It does now some with I know Low Cash just did it. I think Craig Campbell may have, but back then that was unheard of until Tracy.
It didn't happen. So
but he was still a young artist. We're talking about 2006. I mean, I mean, Tracy's still young. He and Justin have that in common. Of their eras, they were young when they got in.
Tracy, I guess, class of 90, 91. And heck, he was 23 years old, got his first number one, So
right. And that's what Justin says.
That's crazy.
Yeah, when he was out there first starting, he's going up there with Randy and Jamie Johnson, these guys that are a little bit older than him. So his whole era is he's the young one in the bunch, kind of like Tracy is too.
Yeah.
But to have a long career like that is tough, for that longevity. But when you keep putting out good music, a lot of times it just doesn't. People just don't put out new albums. They put new collaborations or new mixes of old songs. But Tracy's put out good stuff. A lot of artists have put out great. Joe Nichols, I listen to his records every time he puts one out. Another Arkansas
boy.
Yeah, but these records are so good, and it kills me, and I don't get frustrated anymore because I'm over it. But I'm like, that should be a hit. That should be at least I mean, let it run up to top 10 at least. I mean, it should, but that's just the way the world works.
Now it's a shame. I don't even hardly listen to the radio anymore because I like you got a cell phone and Apple Music or Spotify, and you pick your own playlist, so I can listen to what I want to play. I guess I'm just not the kind of guy that wants it fed to me anymore, like it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if they wanted to push an artist back then who really couldn't sing or wasn't that good, they could take a song to number one and make the guy a star when he really wasn't that good,
Right.
Then you get all the good ones that these songwriters would come out and they'd be like, my God, this guy could be a freaking artist because he sings so good, but he might be the ugliest guy in the world. And back then, videos made a difference,
Yep.
And it's it's nuts,
It
how
really.
it
I
used
just
to
watched
be.
that documentary on Milli Vanilli, the pop group from back in the day.
Yeah.
On their whole deal. That was, and they got busted. Won a Grammy. It wasn't even them singing. The
It
whole
wasn't even
deal.
them singing. It took
And
it
then,
all, the credit, everything.
well, and now you've got people coming along, getting successful on a social media platform, and going right from that to a couple of buses playing a show, and have never played in front of a big live audience before, and don't, and their studio work might sound good with whatever you do, but playing live is
Yeah.
a whole nother animal if you haven't put some
And
road work in.
and you can tell it too.
Oh
You
yeah,
can tell it too. We've played with some of those guys that just have that big social media blast, and all of a sudden they come out, they don't know. And but like I say, back in the day, we played with all those guys, the George Straits and the, even when Kenny and Tim were big, we played with them a few times. The backstage was always fun. It was always a place where you had camaraderie, where you could go and you could, go up on stage, see the guy that was playing, and they
yeah.
weren't locking you out or anything. It's like now these guys, I don't know if they teach in school now or what they do, but man, you go to a backstage now, it's like you don't belong there. After you play, it's like get on your bus and get the hell out of here because they don't want you there, They don't want you on stage watching the show. It's like they don't want to say hi to you, it's a different era now.
I've
So
heard that from promoters, and you and I have talked about that before. It's really weird and strange because I'm always thinking, who are these people doing it that way? Because I know anybody off of that I've ever had work with me that has learned anything under me knows that's not how you roll. And I learned it from all
no.
of your era of people of the, you and the Todd Bunches and the Brent Longs and the Jeff Gossets, and we're not that way.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
like,
not at
how?
all.
I'm like, how is this? And hopefully we treated y'all nice when y'all were out on tour with
Oh,
us.
wonderful, wonderful. It's like since we were out with you, I mean, we've been out with people like Jason Aldean, man. Their backstage is great,
Yeah.
Jason's great. Everybody, in that camp was great. Uh, some of these other guys, it's just they lock it down. You
Yeah.
can't do this, you can't do this. We don't want your people backstage. But hey, in the 90s, it was a rip roaring time, It
Yeah.
was like Motley Crue in the 80s, it was a lot
Right.
of fun.
Oh
So
yeah. Well, and some of it, I guess they're attributing to just safety and security with the way the world works now.
yeah.
Because I know even
Yeah, I
for
guess
us,
so.
we were out a couple years ago, and playing a lot of the buildings we had played and headlined before, and go back into them, and I'm like, I don't remember going through 12 checkpoints to get to my dressing room.
Right.
I'm
That's
like, I
true.
don't remember having to have my credentials stamped to my forehead to get through every door to get from my bus to my
Yeah.
backstage area.
Yeah,
But
that's starting a lot more.
you know what I mean? But I don't mind being safe and secure because I
Uh,
don't want any wackos running around backstage.
Hey, you went away again, bro.
You got me now? Hey,
Your
hey, check one,
microphone
two.
cut
Hey, hey,
out.
check 1 2. Hey, hey, check
Oh,
one
there
two.
you go.
You
There
got
you
me?
go.
All
Yeah.
right. But no, it's like I definitely don't mind the security element because you don't want a psycho to figure out how to
Right.
get backstage. But we used to could keep it controlled and not have to deal with all that. Have the perimeter and the pinch
Yeah.
points locked down, and then once you're backstage, we're good. We don't need any help
Yeah.
back here, kind of deal. But a lot of it too is, I mean, the crews are huge, a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. So I give them
Right.
I'll give them a little break on some of that. But still, there's a workaround there on all this
There
stuff, as you
is.
know. There's always a workaround.
Well, it's like I understand it on stage. I mean, I've gotten to where I lock down our stages, especially where our crew's going to be working a lot.
Right.
It's like family, you go over here, friends, y'all stay on this side. We're working over here.
Right.
Please leave us alone, while we're
Once you
during the
figure out
show. And
what space you got, because you're going to get you like me,
yes.
you're going to get to talk earlier in that day from your monitor person and your guitar tech and your stage manager or whoever is like, hey, I know we got a bunch of guests, but we got no room on the deck. The wings are tight.
Right.
There's no room. Could you put the last time we were in this town, the people were this and that. Could you please not have that, whatever.
Yeah.
So you got to negotiate it room by room or, venue by venue.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm always, I learned this from you guys and just about everybody we've ever toured with has been awesome and done the same thing. You can lock it
Yes.
down for certain things, but direct support, anybody who's played on that stage that night should be able to come back and watch the headliner.
Right. Exactly.
And the few times
Especially
I've been denied have been really, really shocked and hurt a little bit. I'm like, really?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, what I always try, I've learned now that, with those guys, that want to lock it down, I don't mind them kicking our band guys off stage or our crew guys or even me. But if my artist goes up there and you're going to deny him access to that stage that he just played on and had everybody screaming, out here in the crowd, then I got a problem,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's when it becomes a problem.
Right. And
Just don't shut my artist down.
right. And and then you have to wonder where the chain of command comes in to who makes that decision, because if the artist, the whoever's locking it down's artist knew that this was going down, surely they would
Yeah.
probably be, that would not the way they want it. So it's and somebody's just trying to do their job, maybe doesn't know this, maybe they didn't understand and didn't get mentors like us to train them the way, maybe they come from another genre and that's acceptable, but to me it's
Yeah.
just not in my world,
Or
especially to guys that pave the way for all of us to have a
exactly.
job.
Exactly. Well,
But
and it depends on if that guy, the tour manager just got an ass eating for one thing one night, and all of a sudden he said, "Well, this will never happen again. I'm locking it down."
right.
So, and I get it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants an ass eating.
Yeah,
So,
right. Oh, I get it. Well, same with, even like talking about that on a production level this weekend, we got shut down. Our stage we were on, it was a nice Apex stage, but it didn't have wind walls and didn't have much of a roof. It had,
right.
just didn't have enough protection. And in our contract, that's really, so Jeff, our production manager, and I are like, Jeff's like, well, do I hold them to the fire next time and just demand that we have the stage we need, or risk losing the show because it's not in their budget or they don't have space for it or this or that? And it's just like, what do? But you don't want to,
Yeah.
lose any shows. You don't want to get chewed out by your artist or management, and I don't want to put anybody in danger or
Right.
risk my crew getting injured trying to deal in a situation they shouldn't be in or any of that. So it's really one of those situational things, but it's tricky. It really is,
It is. It is. It is.
and then, because like you said, you never know what might have went on the night before or the week before or a month before
Yeah.
to get that on there. But there's definitely there's a workaround and a way to take care of people out there, and hopefully everybody will
Well,
remember that part.
I just like tell everybody, a lot of people take themselves way too serious.
You're
And
right.
you're not one of those guys. I don't feel like I'm one of those guys.
No,
But not everything's black and white in this world. There are some
absolutely.
gray areas, so we can,
Absolutely.
you know.
Especially in our
But
business, for sure. And
yeah.
there's a cool story you've told me before on that, about being cool, and it involved Chesney, who we mentioned earlier, because y'all did some shows together. Chesney used to come out and open for Tracy,
Yeah.
and then fast forward to you guys are opening for him some, because he blew up there at the end, in the 90s, late after Tracy had his rise. Chesney was one of the ones on deck. So then,
Yes.
y'all switch roles, and it comes to the contract stating that, well, you get this one merch table, we get 4 over here for
Yeah.
Chesney, and I'll let you tell it. So when you show up the first day, how's that go down?
Yeah. I showed up at the show, and Tim, he was their merch guy. And, I never did, when I was doing merch, if I got 2 tables, I'd give the opener 2 tables. To me, they're doing the same. We're all doing the same thing. It's just this guy might be more popular. This guy might be, but there's no need to say you get 2 shirts, I get 10 shirts, blah blah blah. We're out there doing the same thing. So I go out there with and go to Tim. I said, well, okay, man, how do I price my shirts? How many do I get to set up? And where's the room? He said, man, you do exactly what you want to do. He said, because when we were out with you, said you let me do exactly what I wanted to do. I said, well, hey, that's it. All comes around, full circle. You
Absolutely.
know, Tracy always said, he said, just remember those people that you knock off the ladder going up, said when you're coming down that ladder, they're coming up too, so
Yep. You're going
that
to
you
meet
pass them,
everybody.
they're coming down,
Yep.
so
You either on the way up or on the way down. You're going to meet
that's
everybody's
right.
business at some point. So yeah, and that's the way it should be. So I mean, the managers or the contract or the agents who come up with that are like, well, you get 1 table, you get 2 items to sell.
Yeah.
But you and Tim's like, no, you guys were awesome to
Yeah.
us. We're returning the favor. It's the least we could do, whatever. And we're the same way. I've run into that situation. It's like, no, put out everything you got. I hope y'all make so much money on merch. I want y'all to sell out. Please,
Yeah,
whatever that
absolutely.
takes. It's a
And
team thing.
Chesney, of course, at that time, well, last time we played with him, hell, he was doing like $1 million in merch, so it didn't matter what
Right.
who was there. We were going to do what we were going to do. He was going to do what he was going to do because he was at that point, to where he could have put. a sack of horse turds out there and sold it,
Right.
and with it had Kenny Chesney stamped on them, they'd have bought it. So
That's good stuff. So then and then so fast forward, and I'm not going. There's so much to go into. I'm gonna have you on again in another episode, and we can go. We'll remember all the stories we didn't tell on this one, and we'll tell those on the next time we get together on one of these. But so let's go forward to the 90s. Awesome, rocking. We go into the 2000s. Tracy, like I said, Tracy's not without a label, and he puts out his own single. Find out who your friends are, ends up being a big old smash hit, #1 in, I believe, 06. At this point, y'all are still out rocking, playing shows. You're still merch. When does the transition go from merch/business manager into tour manager? And did Tracy have the same tour manager his whole career, or he bounced through a bunch of them, or how'd that go?
He had a tour manager who did great. He did a great job, and I think, like everything, things fizzle out. And uh, his name was Chuck. He was a great guy. You ought to have him on here. He was a great tour manager. But
Definitely.
he left when him and Tracy parted ways. Three Doors Down needed and praying for Brad, of course,
No doubt.
Right
No
now, but Three Doors Down needed a tour manager, so he just left Tracy, jumped right on the Three Doors Down tour, and then that's when I finally transitioned into this role. Tracy.
What year was that? What year would that have been?
Actually, 2017 or 18 is when that happened for him, and then Tracy went a couple of years trying out different tour managers, and every time he'd get one, I'd jump in and cover the thing, if one didn't work out or something, and then we'd hire another one. Finally, I was like doing merch, business management, and tour managing. And I said, when are you going to find a tour manager, man? I'm doing all this junk. I said, man, I'm tired. He goes, well, why don't we just get a merch guy? Then you just be tour manager. I'm like, sounds good to me. So
I've been practicing
that's where we're at right now. Yeah,
I've been practicing for it long enough. Oh man.
But,
that would have been, so if that was 17 or so. So we met you guys right about that time out at I remember the first time we all hung out. You and I met. We were backstage somewhere out way off somewhere.
Was it it was one of those Jamboree in the Hills or something, like what Jamboree in the Hills, but it was someplace in Ohio, I think we'd played. Wasn't Kentucky Headhunters on that show? They played like first, because I remember they woke the drummer up, Fred, like 10 minutes before the show. He come out there, jammed the show, kicked ass, did everything, and then went right back to bed because they played at like 2 o'clock or something.
Wow,
so,
that sounds right. Yeah, because I remember it was backstage at a festival type atmosphere. We had the bus compound back there.
Yeah,
and you and I met somehow during that day. And I think you had, maybe because you had a kick-ass Tracy Lawrence shirt like the one I have on, maybe on. And
I noticed that. Yeah.
And I said, man, that's a cool shirt, man. I'd love to have one of those. And you go, well, I've been his merch manager for 30 years. I've got everything he's ever sold. What you want? And I was like, really? And I was like, I'm JR. We're going to be best friends. And, and we chit-chatted for a while. The next thing I know, we're on the bus with you and Tracy. I think y'all came up to our bus. And we were looking through that window, and I remember, and that's when Tracy said, boy, it's changed a lot backstage. It used to be the wild, wild west back there. It's a little different now, And that's the first time that I remember us all hanging out, and I'm sure Justin had met Tracy somewhere along the way before that, but that's the first time I remember meeting you guys, and you and I swapping numbers and all that, and you told me that, a brief history of your story with Tracy, and I was like, wow, you went to high school and then you've been doing it was just really cool. And I think it was not Jamboree in the Hills, but something like that.
It was something like it was Ohio, West Virginia, somewhere, but I remember that. I remember it like I just don't remember. I remember the look of the stage. I remember everything about it, but I can't remember where it was.
Right. So, same. And
then I do remember.
And then, because I don't know if we were going to do some shows coming up soon after that. Maybe we had a couple shows together coming up. But we caught up and had a good time, and me and Justin were pumped. He's like, man, Tracy's awesome, and I'm like, dude, yes, he is. And Opie's awesome too. This is going to be perfect. And then we did, and so we've been friends ever since that, and run into each other at different events. And then fast forward to 2020, We're supposed to
Yeah.
do, and this is and I was assistant tour manager when we first met. I had moved over to full tour
Yeah.
manager by 2020, and it was us, Justin, Tracy Lawrence, and Laney Wilson opening the
Laney
show.
Wilson. Yep.
And then we go out and do a handful of shows and get the first weekend we get shut down. And Chase Butler was telling this story because he was actually working with Laney at the time. He wasn't on that run. Yeah, he wasn't on that run. But we go up to do the first shows. I think the first one was in Nebraska or Kansas. And then we head off to like South Dakota, and we don't make it far at all. And we're wrecking buses and sliding off the road.
Yes.
So remember, we huddled up at a hotel there.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking at me. I'm the brand new tour manager. I got one show under my belt. I slipped the night before on the loading dock because everything was iced over, trying to get my suitcase out of the building. So I'm not a morning person anyway. And I'm like, what do I do here? Do I have to cancel 2 of the first 3 shows I'm ever going to be the tour manager for this outfit? And unfortunately, had to make that call while everybody in Nashville's trying to push us to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys,
we could not have made that.
We
could not have. I mean, there was trucks. The trucks that had left the night before, and they weren't even, they hadn't even made it there because I think from when our rehearsal was done in Dodge City or something,
yep,
we were leaving to go. Yeah, we were in Dodge City. And you remember, I got sick as a dog there. I don't know if it was the first case of COVID in the United States, but I was sick as a dog. And that's the year LSU won the national championship. And, I'm a big sports fan, big football fan. I had to go to bed at halftime and didn't even watch the second half of that game because I was so sick. And then we came to Dodge City, and I think I got everybody else sick on that tour. So maybe not on your bunch, but on our bus, everybody got sick. I made everybody sick. Tracy says that I was at an Asian massage parlor, but I was not.
Yeah, that was, and everybody was sick then. I remember I came home after one of those runs, might have been that run, and went to the doctor. They said it was upper respiratory infection. That was before anybody knew COVID.
Yeah.
And then we started hearing rumblings of that, on Joe Rogan and whatnot. And we go out and do maybe 6, 8 more shows. And then we get shut down.
Yep. Yep. Man, that was a great tour. That was so much fun. We were just, we were rocking it too. I mean, every show was selling good, and Laney was out there driving around in a freaking car.
Yep.
You remember Justin bought her that guitar because she had a guitar. He's like, what is she playing up there? And so he went out and bought her a brand new Martin,
Yeah, he did.
To put her on stage.
I told that story.
Pretty cool.
It was. Well, she had a guitar, but it was just rough, and she didn't have to ask her manager if she had anything back home to bring out. She said, not really. Everything she's got's pretty rough shape. So Justin was like, and I think we were in Dodge City or somewhere like that. Justin's like, let's go find a guitar center around here, and let's go find her a guitar. So, and he went and personally picked it out and played those guitars till he found one. And he still don't even own a Martin. He bought her one, and he don't even got
really?
one.
He don't even have one.
He still looking for one. But yeah, that was a great tour, and I told that to Chase. I'm one of the things I'm maddest about COVID is it cut me out of that run of getting to watch Tracy work every night because Justin and I would be at front of the house for y'all's whole show, and I mean we're like, all right, we got to go to meet and greet. Let's hurry up and get back, or whatever the situation.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, we had a big light package video selling really good, all these big venues, and then we're playing down, I think, in Bossier City. We're about to do a big casino show, and they're like, I don't think we're going to play tonight. All this is going down. And I call Billy Bob. We're supposed to play Billy Bob's the next night. Y'all were going somewhere else, and Gallagher's like, no, we're still good here. This is Texas. Y'all just come on. We're gonna play. And I said, all right. Well, Governor's making a speech at 4. We'll wait until after that. And then 4:07, he calls me back. Well, looks like the governor said we ain't having no show. So we didn't go to Billy Bob's. I rented a car, grabbed a bottle of vodka and a bottle of hand sanitizer, drove back to Alabama. In a rental car. That was a weird time. I mean, and that's something like going back to mentors. Normally with anything situation comes up, you go back and ask, well, what did y'all do in this situation? What did y'all do when this happened or when this event went down? How'd y'all deal with it? There was no reference point. Nobody knew what to do.
No, not any whatsoever. And that's what Tracy's manager said. He's country music is recession proof. It's it's disaster proof. It always, but said nobody knows nothing was pandemic proof, so everything shut down, and not just the music business, but You just imagine how many we were talking a while ago about, you know, what it takes to to for the jobs in this business, and what it takes to make, everybody making money. But you think about who it shut down in those arenas and everything, the people, the concession guys, it shut janitors down from cleaning the bathrooms, I mean,
Parking attendants, everybody.
parking attend everybody, it's there's
the
a
whole
whole
the
lot of
local
money in the music business.
a whole lot. The local law enforcement and EMTs and all that get scheduled to do these overtime things for these events and
Yeah.
stuff that are looking for that money revenue to come in to support their town. All the hotels that fill up, the restaurants in these towns that sell food and rental cars and the airport. I mean, just a ton.
Yeah.
But we were not prepared for not being able to gather. We have to be able to gather. And we tried the online this or that, or the digital, streaming a concert, all that stuff, but none of that works in what we do. You got to have that human interaction.
You gotta have it, This is the entertainment business. People want to be entertained. So
Absolutely. Well, I know you've got other stuff to do today, so I'm not going to keep you on here all day. We're going to do a few things and clean up, do a little shopkeeping around here. But I definitely want to have you on again so we can chop it up. We'll do this every couple of months, and because we didn't even scratch on what Tracy and you guys are rocking and rolling doing now. I mean, with Tracy's podcast,
exactly.
which y'all can go back and watch Opie on Tracy's podcast about a year ago. But he's got a big podcast. He's rocking and rolling and recording and doing TL's Roadhouse on the radio, and I mean, out playing shows. I mean, you guys are just working as hard as you ever were.
Yeah, man. We're out there. We're everywhere. So
out here in it. We out here in it,
Yeah.
like Tracy sings
we're
about.
out here in it. Yep. Out there in it. That's it, man.
That's right. So we'll get back on, and maybe we can get you and Tracy on and tell a few stories next time. But I got a few things
That'd
I do
be
with all of
awesome,
them.
man.
That really would. And I want to come on his podcast. I mean, if Justin, I can't get him to Nashville, I'll get up there at some point and do it. I'd love to just sit and do that with Tracy at some point.
Well,
you too.
If me and Justin get on there all week, you know what we're gonna talk about?
Oh God, me and Tracy ever won't talk about music. All y'all talking about what 8th grader over in Foreman might get signed to the Hogs.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Oh, it's funny. Every time you guys get together, y'all say, "How's everybody back home?" Everybody back home. Y'all get in. We know so and so's in the regionals this year. Yeah, but across town, across the river over there, boy, they got a good team over there too. And them girls playing softball down in so and so got a good one, don't they?
That's right. That's right.
I love it. I love it. Well, I got a few things I do with all our guests, and then we'll wrap it up and let you get back to it. One thing is I got to do here, and I tried to look it up. I usually can look it up if it's an artist because they'll have a page and I can find this, but I couldn't find it on you. What's your birthday, Opie?
2/12/68.
All right. The next thing I got here, and I'll go back to this, is I do a thing. It's called Big Number in Your Phone. So of all of the numbers you have in your phone and you've accumulated over these years, which one would be a shock, or do you think's a big name, or just something you're surprised to yourself? You're still shocked. I can't believe I got this person's number.
Shit. Probably Justin Moore. Tell you the truth. I'm serious. I'll be at home and somebody be talking about Justin Moore. I go, look at this. I got his number. And people like, I'm like, heck yeah, man.
Oh, well, that's a good one. He'll be glad you said that. I mean, I would be too. He was the biggest one in mine for a long time. And he's still up there in the charts on my phone.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
But you never know. I had Chris Tate on last week, and he's like, I don't know, probably Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Pretty good one. But
Well,
think about it, you probably got, like me, though, you got some governors and some senators and some athletes.
I do.
I'm sure you got some former Hogs and coaches and stuff.
I actually have Sam Pittman's because y'all
See?
called the other day when he come to the show in Hot Springs. So, yeah, it was really cool. We won the bowl game, and I said, "Great job, coach." And he wrote back, "Thank you, my friend." I was like, "Heck yeah, man!"
I mean,
That's
as a boy
cool.
growing up being a Hog fan, it don't get no better than the coach
Absolutely.
being able to text the coach of the university's football team.
That's right. That's right. So,
That's amazing. Man, so all right, so birthday. This is a part we do. It's called birthday number one. It is the number one song in country music on the day that you were born. So your parents are down there in the corner of near Texarkana. They're leaving the hospital in a 1960 model something or a 50 model something, heading back home with this this little boy, they named him Tommy, and he looks like a little angel, all swaddled up, probably had you riding in the back of the truck, heading back
No
home.
seatbelt.
No
Just laid
seatbelt.
back there on a blanket.
Yeah, gave you a beer and a cigarette to calm you down, make you quit crying.
That's it.
But as they're going on, they turn on their favorite country channel down there, and the announcer then, I don't think it was Lon Helton because that's a little way back, but the announcer goes on, and the number one song in country music this week is, who do you think it is?
Dude, Merle Haggard?
No,
No.
it's a huge song. A fairly obscure artist that didn't have a big string. I mean, he had some hits, but most people wouldn't associate this name in country music. It's not one of the common names that gets thrown around. But the song was huge, and it was kind of a crossover song before crossover songs were really mainstream, I guess you would say. But it was huge, and it was kind of dark, I think. It's had a lot of history to this song. I'll just tell it to you because there's no way I can give any hints that would get us to this one. Skip a Rope by Henson Cargill.
Skip a Rope.
Boom, boom.
Skip a Rope. Yeah.
I mean, there's a story to that song I can't think off the top of my head, but that was a controversial song, I think, at the time it came out, but a big song and probably a multi-week, multi-chart type song.
Probably had to have been, yeah. I mean, heck, at least we've heard it, you know.
The children play Skip a Rope. You know, I mean, I think it was something dark like that. You know, that was the time. That was a lot of turmoil in our country, late '60s, with different things and protests and wars and human rights and all the other stuff. So, man, no telling. But that was the number one song in country music on the day you were born, if anyone ever asked. And it makes sense too, because. I mean, and they always think these songs kind of play in, because mine was September 11th, 1979. It was Conway Twitty. I may never get to heaven, but I once came mighty close. And I'm like, man, what a song to line up with. And it's an Arkansas guy, and I work for an Arkansas guy. I just think that's weird.
Exactly. Yeah,
and I want to say his is, and I want to say Justin's is an Alabama song, which is ironic.
Yeah.
And then yours is Skip a Rope, and you just was at work one day and figured I'll skip this rope to go see my buddy Tracy, and you've been skipping a rope ever since.
Skipping a rope ever since, exactly.
Well, the last one I got here, and this may be the best. Yours is going to be one of the I just spit on my microphone. It's crazy. Sorry about that, everybody. This one may be one of the biggest, most knowledge driven, and probably one of the most I don't know the word I'm looking for here, one of the most I don't know, I would say accurate, or you'll definitely have a great take on this, and one of the, maybe a definitive one. And I know Tracy does this, and a few things that he saw on our podcast, and totally fine. He can rip me off all he wants, because Lord knows I ripped off every time I move my little way or tilt my head when I shake somebody's hand. I'm trying to rip Tracy off. But we do the Mount Rushmore of country music, and it's usually a Mount Rushmore of just music in general. But I know you personally, and I know you're probably gonna have all country on there no matter what. So who would be your definitive Mount Rushmore of country music, for the record?
Dude, you know, I'd have to have Keith Whitley up there, because he was so good. George Strait, you know, he's got to be the guy up there. Uh, hell, I don't know, man. There's so many good ones out there from over the years. You know, Glenn Campbell, he's one of my favorites, man. I'd have to put him up there. The Arkansas guy. Yep. And shoot, probably George Jones, because I met the guy and shook his hand.
Yep. Nobody can argue with that list. I mean,
yeah.
The guy who was going to take the reins, and unfortunately we lost to. Did Tracy get to meet Keith Whitley?
No, he never did. Keith died in 1989, I think.
89, so, right before he got to town.
And
then Strait, you know, the king. They don't call him the king for no reason.
Exactly.
Elvis was the king until Strait took it.
Yeah, you know, and growing up so close to Texas, you know, not a Texas fan. Just let everybody know that. Yeah, got to do that. So
you Arkansas guys ain't gonna let that one slip in.
No, we won't. But you know, George Strait was just, I mean, hell, he was king, man.
And he was smooth, buddy. Great songs.
Dude.
Yep. And then Glenn Campbell, I mean, you know, arguably probably went on to do as much in the music business in general as much as any artist as far as crossing genres, playing on records, being on television and film and Hollywood. For anybody in country music, went out to Hollywood and all that stuff. So that's a unique one there, but totally could see that. And then Jones, who I'm like you, I'm in the church of George Jones is the greatest country music singer of all time. If you're just talking about singing, and there ain't nobody could sing like Jones. You know, that's what you know. Most of his peers would say that. We all wish we could sound like Joe Waylon said that historically. You know, because Jones was just so good and just timeless on those songs. You could feel it in his voice. And then because the other ones that we usually talk about in this same category are like the Highwaymen, you know, and Haggard. Yeah. But how do you put those? Are so, I mean, they're all individually awesome artists, but they're, you know, how do you, not that you can't differentiate, but you'd be hard pressed to have one on there and leave the others off. You know, because how could you leave one on and leave off? How could you put Haggard on and leave Waylon off, or put Willie on? And then I always argue too, Charlie Daniels. If you're talking about visuals, Charlie was. You know, everybody knows what he looks like, kind of like Willie. But then some that I, you know, and then if you talk about groups like Alabama, I mean, what a run they were on and how much they meant to the business. But I have to say one of mine that somehow slips through to me would have to be Dolly. Just because there's nobody done as much for country music as Dolly Parton. I mean, she's took it around the world. She's as, you know,
do this
for so long, wrote songs, sang songs, all that. But it's so hard to get that list down. I mean, you really need about 20 people.
It really is.
And then you'd still have people that shouldn't have been left off.
Yeah, mine would have to be you know, 4 people is not enough to put on your country music Mount Rushmore. You know, whatever, you know, you gotta have your Merle Haggards, your, you know, Johnny Paycheck. Just imagine what he did. God rest his soul, just passed away.
Yep.
But
Hank Jr.,
you know,
Hank Sr.,
Hank Jr., Hank Sr.,
Lefty Frizzell.
You know?
I mean, and, you know, I mean, it go on and on and on. And then hell, I mean, I know a lot of people put Tracy on there, you know, and I'm not saying I wouldn't, but you know, I mean, you know, depends on what era you came up to, because the old timers are going to say you can't do it without these, and depends on what era, you know. Well, so it basically just has to be a personal Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, look at Ray Price. Look at Gene Watson, you know, look at what those guys have done, you know.
Conway Twitty.
People like that, you know.
He had the record for number ones before Straight took it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just tough.
Man, you imagine what he sang like to, and you imagine what Conway Twitty, you know, today, or at least a couple of years ago, he'd have been canceled out about what he was singing about, because everything he sang about was about sex and women, you know.
Right.
Everything about it was that.
If you go back and watch videos, half of the big stars should have been, because I mean, like, I think it was it Ringo Starr or George Harrison or one of those in like the 80s had a song, I think it was She's 16, She's Beautiful, and She's Mine. And he's in the music video as a 30, 40-year-old man with supposed to be 16 or something. I mean, it's just some of those songs, and I'm just like, but I guess it was a different time. I don't know. And then you hear, and if you're like me, you read enough rock and roll documentaries and autobiographies and stuff, you're like, goodness, the stuff that used to go on, you know, couldn't imagine that today.
Yeah.
You know, so, but yeah. And with Conway,
there's got to be a lot of people die before we talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. We'll save all the dogs and wheelchair stories for after everybody's gone. But but it's just, you know, like you said with Conway, now they don't leave anything to the imagination. There's no creativity there. Conway saying, we're not really strangers, I've already loved you in my mind. You know, you knew what he was talking about, but he didn't have to go out and say explicitly the curse words and the this and the that.
Right.
And put it out. He let you. That's art to me. I think that's art. You know what I mean? And he didn't write the song, I'm sure, but that's another thing we can go on one day, is just songs and songwriters and the stuff that, I mean, how, you know, some people write, you know, like Alan Jackson wrote Remember When by himself, like an hour after that went down. You're like, how do you come up with that, you know, on your own? And it's hard enough. You have 4 people to write a song, you know, that good. But and then there's some artists who never wrote, and then there's some artists that only did what they wrote, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like Charlie Pride. There's another one. Hard to leave Charlie Pride off a list, because he's one of my personal favorites, and from Mississippi, and one of my granddad's favorites, one of Justin's granddad's favorite. But he didn't write any of his own stuff, you know.
He did.
No, I don't think McGraw did either. I don't think Tim McGraw wrote most of his own stuff. But then
Dude.
some that only will sing what they wrote, you know.
Yeah. If you look at somebody like Joe Diffie, hell, he needs to be on a Mount Rushmore or something, man. What a singer.
Singer. I mean,
One of the greatest
And then Daryl Singletary.
singers ever. Yeah, Daryl Singletary.
And he
My
didn't even
God,
have a
man.
big run like he should have and left us way too soon.
Uh-uh. Exactly.
Didn't even get his
Exactly.
due. Well, all right. Well, I'll get out of here. I'll leave you with one fun fact of the day, just because I thought this was neat. Born on, and then we're doing this on May 12th. We're recording just for all clarity there. I know this won't come out for another week
Yeah.
or two, but just so everybody knows, on May 12th, on this day in 1901, born on this day in DeSoto, Missouri, the Duke of Paducah, Benjamin Francis Ford. He was a comedian, radio host, and banjo player, popular from the 40s to the 60s, and was elected to the Country Music Hall of Fame. February of 1986, he died in June of that year. But I thought it was funny, the Duke of Paducah. If you'll ever go back and look at old Hank Williams Jr. flyers from back in the 60s and before he became Bo Cephas when he was still, the Duke of Paducah and Merle Kilgore were on most of those shows. And I never knew this about who he really was. I used to always think, who was the Duke of Paducah? I know that I see it on all these old Hank Jr. built,
The Duke of
flyers and
Paducah.
posters. But there's
Yeah.
your fun fact of the day.
That's
Go
pretty
look
cool.
up go look up the Duke of Paducah and look that up if you want to dive into some country
We'll
music
do it,
there.
man.
Yeah. Everybody out
That's
there,
cute, man.
go check out my buddy Tommy at a Tracy Lawrence show. Say hey to him. Man, I can't thank you enough for coming on today, Opie. What a treat.
Man.
I hope you'll come back on again some other time.
Hey, it was my pleasure, man. Just anytime I get to talk to you or be around you, man, it's always a great day. So it's always been fun being around you and working with you. So
I appreciate it,
it's
brother. You
it's
too, man. Y'all, you showed me the way, and man, I'm just trying to pick up where my heroes left off. You know what I mean?
hey, man. It's like I always say, nobody take yourself too serious. This is the entertainment business, not to piss you off business.
Yeah,
So
right. I say it's rock and
that's the
roll,
way I
not
look
rocket
at it.
science.
That's right. That's right.
Well, hey, are the Hogs gonna win it all in baseball this year? Y'all got a good team.
Boy, I sure hope so, man. I'm a Hog fan. I'm with them no matter what, but I'm so used to disappointment that if we win, great. If we lose, and I'll brag a lot, but if we lose, then hey, I'm still a Hog fan. So
On to football, and then basketball,
on
and
to
then
football,
baseball.
on to basketball, back to baseball. Hey, we'll get you in track. We're
That's
gonna get
right.
you in track. But hey, our softball's doing good this year. We might get you in softball. So
Yeah,
I
y'all,
don't
man,
know.
y'all. That's the
Oklahoma's
thing, y'all are.
tough.
Yeah, and y'all are always, and I've been living it with Justin for 13 years. Y'all are always good at everything. Football's been a little down, had some down years, but
Yeah.
y'all always got a great basketball team. You're always in the hunt for baseball. I mean, you go to you've probably got more
Yeah.
number twos than you're the Sammy Kershaw of baseball in the last.
We're the
2
Sammy
decades.
Kershaw of baseball.
Y'all got more twos than anybody.
You're right.
Oh, but anyway, well,
All
good luck
right,
to
brother.
y'all, my man. We'll talk soon. Tell Tracy we said hello.
All right,
Don't be a
brother.
stranger. We'll see you. Maybe we'll hook
We'll
up on the
do
road
it.
soon.
All right, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Yes,
Holler
sir.
at
See
you
you,
later.
brother. All right, man. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, man, I hope everybody out there enjoyed that as much as I did. That was my brother Tommy Opie McDonald from Tracy Lawrence's camp. Just an absolute treasure, and a great guy, great tour manager, great mentor to me, and just all around great person. Y'all go check them out at his show, TracyLawrence.com. Check out Tracy's TL's Roadhouse. Check out his podcast, all that stuff. Tracy's got a gift for it. He is a steward of our genre and represents so well. He's knowledge that I'll never have. Thanks for everybody for liking, rating, subscribing. Give a review on Apple Podcasts if you don't mind. Click the 5 stars. That helps us out so much. We've got all kinds of cool stuff in the works. I want to be able to get these out more frequently and at highest quality possible, and all of that stuff will help ensure that continues for a long time. I've got some great guests lined up for the next couple of weeks, and I hope everybody will tune in to those as they come out each week. This past week, like I was talking with Opie, will be 2 weeks ago when you hear this, I'm assuming. We were in Mendenhall, Mississippi. Want to say shout out to ZA Construction, my buddy Sam Rankin from Jason Promotions, and everybody that helped us with that show over there. We had a great time. We had bad weather, but we got it in and had a big one this week. And then this past week, we will be down in Tampa, Florida at Busch Gardens. A couple weeks off, and then we're going to be in Nashville 1st of June. We've got a show on June 3rd at the Sky Deck in Nashville. Then we're doing an Opry show the following day on the 4th, and we'll be in Fort Wayne, Indiana on the 5th, Louisville, Kentucky on the 7th, Bethlehem, PA on the 13th, and York, PA on the 14th. Y'all come see us at a show. That's justinmooremusic.com. Look for tickets, meet and greets, all that fun stuff. So y'all come see us at a show sometime. Go to jrthehandler.com for links to this show, podcasts, videos, merch page, all that fun stuff. Tell your friends. Best way you can help us is just share the podcast. If you enjoy this conversation or know somebody that was talked about or involved in any of these stories, just send it to them. Send it to somebody you think that might enjoy it, because all that stuff really helps. That's about all I've got for the week. I have some voicemails and some things I wanted to talk about on here, but I'm running short on time and don't have it in front of me. I don't have it in front of me to go over. So I'm going to let you guys off the hook this week, but thank you again for tuning in. I'm going to stay around. You guys hang around, because at the end of each of these episodes now, I'm going to read a passage out of Let's All Make the Day Count, The Everyday Wisdom of Charlie Daniels, one of my favorite books there is, and it's by Uncle Charlie. So I'm going to read a passage out of that and let y'all get to it. Thank y'all for tuning in. Share the love, or spread the love, share the podcast, use all the likes, rates, subscribes, all that fun stuff you can, and we'll see y'all down that old dusty road we call country music. 66, being faithful. One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much. Luke 16:10. Being faithful should never be taken lightly. It involves commitment, determination, and sometimes self-denial. For more than the last 40 years, it has been my responsibility to, among other things, make payroll for 25 people every 2 weeks. I ensure the continuance of their employment, provide adequate transportation to get personnel and equipment to the more than 100 concerts we perform every year, and make sure I'm at the top of my game for every show. Now, I alone can't possibly take care of all these details, so I must delegate responsibility. To delegate, means hiring people you can trust with your money, your career, and in the case of drivers who ferry their human cargo thousands of miles every year, your life. In the early days, I put my dependence in some who were less faithful, less honest, and less trustworthy. I got my fingers burned and became much more selective about who entered into my confidence and trust. When you delegate responsibility, one weak link in a chain could shut down the whole operation. I have been blessed with capable employees who shoulder the responsibilities assigned to them and get the job done, making them valuable assets. Accepting responsibility is a covenant of trust, a serious undertaking that can reap great rewards for a worthy person. Let's all make the day count.